At Masters Union, students actually get to pitch their startups that they've been building through the year to real VCs and get real-time feedback as well as funding.
Guys, if in 20-25 minutes you'll be able to do the presentation as well as the demo of the product, that'll be great. That'll help save some time.
So today we have the founders of Seeds.AI pitching to InfoEdge partners.
Hi, I'm Chinmay. I'm a partner at InfoEdge Ventures.
I'm Kitty Agarwal. I'm a partner at InfoEdge Ventures.
Hi, I'm Rishabh and I'm a principal at InfoEdge Ventures.
We are early stage investors. We like to back exceptional founders. Some of our better known investments include Zomato, Policy Bazaar, Ixigo. It's the best for an investor when their investments are better known than they themselves are.
I think a lot of people have this misconception that funding works like in a Shark Tank manner.
Shark Tank crystallizes what happens in 30 minutes.
Whereas VCs are more organized, we are more structured. We are going to spend a lot of time with the founders, multiple meetings.
Usually that whole exercise happens over a period of several weeks, sometimes month, and sometimes more than a year.
Seeds.AI is a conversational intelligence company that makes the life of BFSI sales teams very easy.
नमस्कार, मैं लोन विभाग से आज आपकी किस प्रकार सहायता कर सकता हूँ?
सर मुझे गाड़ी का लोन चाहिए। आप गाड़ी का देते हो या होम लोन देते हो?
आपका सवाल समझने के लिए धन्यवाद। हम गाड़ी के लिए भी और घर के लिए भी लोन प्रदान करते हैं। आपकी जरूरतों को समझने के लिए कुछ और जानकारी चाहिए। आपके पास आय की कोई और स्रोत है क्या?
नहीं, सिवाय नौकरी के और कुछ नहीं है।
ठीक है, आपकी स्थिति को समझने के लिए धन्यवाद। आपके लिए कितना लोन चाहिए और आपका क्रेडिट स्कोर क्या है?
15 लाख का लोन दे देंगे आप?
25 मांग लो।
We are already profitable. We are doing a revenue of 7 figures. We have acquired Geo Financial Services as one of our clients.
Students will actually be pitching to the VCs and get real-time feedback.
वो हर लाइन में ये क्यों बोलता है कि धन्यवाद, बारी-बारी मुझे धन्यवाद।
Call center वाले भी बोलते हैं ना?
नहीं,
Thanks for your
इतनी बार नहीं बोलते हैं।
Thereafter, you'll also get to see what an investment committee looks like, where the VCs actually discuss their feedback about the startup without the founders being present in the room.
The only thing that I get a little scared of, is that because there are a bunch of players, they would obviously definitely have a tech advantage over these guys.
On the tech itself, the fact that they don't offer real-time analysis right now, I think is slightly behind a few other competitors that we have seen.
You know, while they are on steroids, because I do think it's going to be a capturing the customer kind of thing, because once you get in, you don't get out, and you keep finding different use cases to keep integrating deeper with your customer.
I very hesitatingly asked him to demo. Do you know where is he?
Hi guys.
Hey,
Hi. Please take a seat.
Please take a seat.
So, hi everyone, I'm Shubham. I did my graduation from Ashoka University. I was pretty much involved there with InfoEdge Center for Entrepreneurship. In fact, it won't be exaggeration to say, if not for the center, I wouldn't have been an entrepreneur. Post that, I worked briefly at a boutique consulting firm, and then I was trying to build something up in fintech. This is when I also met you guys, was trying to digitize e-checks in India, the posted e-checks thing. Post that, I was exploring some other things into fintech and BFC domain to realize that probably it's the technology part through which we can create the real impact. So we thought, okay, let's provide technology to other NBFCs and banks rather than, building something of our own, because we understand technology better than the previous sort of traditional players in that game. So that's when we started up Seeds.AI, met Vansh at Masters Union. We have been working together from last 1 year, specifically on this venture from December last year. So yeah.
I am Vansh. I've been kind of building applications since I was in school, built some small here and there applications, and then worked as a software developer for a while in a startup. But at Masters Union, I was kind of very much into machine learning, doing all those courses. That's where kind of Shubham was working with NBFCs, and he was like, this tech, they are kind of very unorganized. They don't have any kind of tech. And I felt like, man, we can integrate AI at this place. So kind of we found this space into particularly conversational AI. Then we kind of started working on it. We're almost 7 months down the line in Seeds.AI, and would also love to show you the product which we have built.
Cool. So I think we can start with the Seeds.AI thing, right?
Perfect. Do you want to plug it in? Plug your computer in?
If we can do
Yeah,
this.
it works.
Perfect.
Guys, if in 20-25 minutes you'll be able to do the presentation as well as the demo of the product, that'll be great. That'll help save some time for any Q&As that we
Yeah,
will
that
try.
makes sense. So we were previously trying to explore the used tech finance market. It was a big market and stuff. And then we were working on this thing. Okay, what's the biggest problem our NBFC faces today? And everyone was saying, okay, our OPEX is really high. We have so many people which we have employed, and as per us, they are not working at the optimum level of efficiency. Now, then the question was, okay, if you look at the macro picture, today, the India story part, you'll know that in India, we have at least 10x growth room for different avenues, be it insurance penetration or lending penetration. But very interestingly, today in India, we have around 10 million sales and customer facing agents in BFSI. If we were to achieve that 10x leg room, we'll require 10 crore such agents. So how we are going to get those numbers? So for that, we'll have to have some kind of automations, AI and stuff. That's when we realized, okay, some of these mundane tasks can actually be automated with the help of AI engine. So that's when we come to this idea. We were working, rigorously with some of the NBFCs whom we were trying to partner for the co-lending. Eventually, they became our first client, and we started selling our SaaS product to them. So that's when the idea of Seeds.AI come in. To tell you about it, it's a customer relationship intelligence and automation software. What I mean by that is, so you have all your customer facing teams, you're trying to make them smarter and faster, and let's sort of double tap on that. So if you think from a perspective of sales manager, let's say in an NBFC or a bank or in an insurance company, what you realize is this: a lot of issues of profanity and mis-selling comes because you put pressure to your agents, okay, you have to do more sales, and because of that, they end up doing profanity and mis-selling. Because of that, customer conversion chances and satisfaction charges both comes significantly down. And ask any person in the BFSI space, and they'll tell you the biggest problem is attrition. So even if you try to fix these problems by training or something else, your agent leaves within a year or so. So how do you fix that? In fact, you might have seen in the news, RBI also recently took cognizance of the fact and asked all major banks like Kotak, SBI, HDFC to control their attrition. It was as high as 30-40%, in some cases even 50%. So what we can do over there is provide them a personalized kind of training. But on top of that also, you set up so many SOPs in a particular firm. Okay, after every call, you could have sent them a greeting message or something, right? And then on every call, you could have fed all these details into CRM and stuff. But because of rigorous nature of the job and so it being so monotonous, you end up missing on those SOPs. So can we do something about that? So if you were to structure it into a flow, it goes like this. You have high targets. Because of that, mis-selling and profanity increases and you don't follow your SOPs. Because of that, you end up having brand damage, your leads get leaked. So, data getting leaked from the company or lead get damaged. So you're not talking to the customer in a well way. So, they are sort of keeping away from your company. Now to fix that thing, if the problem is so big, there has to be a solution. And the solution today is you hire a team leader, you set up a learning and development team. And what you do is you actually audit 1 or 2% of your call center calls. So you have hundreds and thousands of calls every day. A person sits behind the scene and randomly listens to maybe 1 or 2% of them. And then you give them some generic training. But because of that, your OPEX increases significantly. Your attrition is also high anyway. You end up having knowledge loss, and this vicious cycle keeps on continuing. What we can do with the help of AI is this. So you can do an automated QA of 100% of the calls. So instead of listening to just 1 or 2% of the calls, you can actually hear every single word said by every single agent with help of automated QA, with help of AI. Then secondly, you can provide them a personalized training. So today, what a training center would do is this. After a long year or after 6 months, they'll set up a training process, which is same for everyone. So it's like a very generic training done once in a year. But what you can do with the help of AI is make that thing more personalized. So what you were doing in last week as a sales agent, you get to know that in this month. So if अगर मैं closing अच्छे से नहीं कर रहा था last week, I get to know, okay, this is what I got to work on. And lastly,
does this work real time? Will it give hints and tips and feedback to the customer care agent as the conversation is going on, or is it a retro report card that they get at the end of the call or at the end of the day?
Yeah. So actually there are two versions of it. What we are doing right now is post-call. Reason being, we are able to optimize GPUs way more.
Of course.
And a very interesting thing over here is there are such tools in US as well. But there, because of the pricing parity and agents having a higher salary, like 50,000 or 60,000 a year. Here in India, the salary of a per month agent is 10-15,000 rupees. So if we do it real time, the GPU compute doesn't make sense. So that's why we are doing it post the call. And it's more of an audit point of view. And we are having an automated CRM platform also. I'll show that to you, which we are doing real time. So that's how it kind of working
So
out.
what happens is, like within the call, you only want the agent to focus on selling. Like we do not want to show him anything else. And after the call, like the agent spends up around 2 to 3 hours in a day just doing the after call work. That's what we solve in the real time. So as soon as the call ends, everything that he had to do after the call gets completed automatically.
So it's not a co-pilot which is giving you hints on the call, because most of those calls are very monotonous in nature, kind of same script and stuff. So we only catch for the instances of great profanity or some other insight. That's there.
And what's the process like? Are you converting their speech to text and then analyzing the text and taking out insights from them and then giving it to the agent, or is it directly through speech? Because I'm assuming it might be through an STT solution.
So as you precisely pointed it out, we are doing speech to text first. And now the good thing about the AI ecosystem growing up is you right now have so many open source platforms. So you just pick one, and we did a lot of fine tuning and customization on top of it. Now it works really well on top of Hindi and other regional languages. We were using data from Bhashini. It was a government process which was there 2-3 years ago. Recently, again, I think it's picking up some traction. Right. So we use that data to make the ASR part really accurate and both consuming less compute in terms of cost. Then we run them on top of LLM, and then LLM are again customized for this particular use case. So in general they hallucinates a lot. So what we are doing there is we are taking a small LLM with less number of parameters and training it on top of them. And again, we win on both the side, which is we reduce the compute and we increase the accuracy because of that. So that's how it kind of work out. We are having one more module, which so because we were doing text to speech and running it on top of LLM anyway, I will show it to you later. We can probably do some of those code automated also. So 30-40% of codes are like very similar in nature. So that can actually be done by AI, and AI would be speaking from behind. And I would say 70-80% of people won't even be able to recognize that it's an AI, not a human.
And like in any language, or like are you?
Primarily Hindi, which we are working on. Again, in US and other globally, English, a lot of people are doing so. Yeah. And lastly, the business insights one. I really love this story by Sanjay Bichchandani sir, which is to say, in early days of Naukri, he told us once what he do is, he'll ask all the sales manager who are going to field and meeting customers to maintain a knowledge repository. So whatever unique you write it down there. And I think Sanjeev was saying after a month or so, he'll sit down and look at all those insights and make some pattern and then put it into product and process. So why can't other companies do so? As an entrepreneur, you are being told to stay very close to your customer. So we thought maybe we can give it a process and a tool kind of outlook rather than just a good practice. So what you can do over here is, because we are monitoring or listening to every single word said by every customer and agent, we can actually go deep inside the conversation and figure out those insights. So I think I was giving this example. We were working with this company called AMU Leasing Finance. They are into e-rickshaw financing, and we got to know what their agents were doing is their dealers were charging 500 rupees extra in name of file charges. Okay. Yeah, which was going to their pocket, not to the NBFC, right? So we were able to figure out that particular profanity issue and the chain of effects with that and able to fix it. For another NBFC, their callers weren't asking the customer for the referral, which was a process set by them. Okay, so after every call, you don't want a loan, that's fine. Do you know someone who wants a loan? And I'll give you a 2,500 rupees referral fee. But again, they were not asking this. So it's like a asymmetrical impact which you can have with the help of tool, which can't really be assessed by KPI or something, but can actually turn your business upside down.
What? So it's all these capabilities live?
Yeah.
Yes.
All three of them.
Everything is working. It's already deployed for 4 of our clients.
Okay.
And interestingly, like earlier, we could only track keywords, but this is only because of AI that we can get the entire context. So even if there's something that we didn't know earlier, we could now figure it out using the intelligence that we have.
So there was a previous generation of companies also who were trying to do the same. The way they were doing it is this. They were using some AWS or Google speech to text and then looking for keywords. Now the problem was twofold there. The one being they ended up paying a lot of money to the Googles of the world, so their unit economics never really made sense. And secondly, if you're just looking for the keyword, you don't get the context. So this technology was not even possible in the pre-LLM kind of domains, because you can get the context and much more deeper insights out of it.
Understood. And for all the 4 customers, they're using all these 3. So they come together as a package.
Yeah, they come together as a package.
Okay. And out of these 3, do customers value one more over the other? For example, do people say that auto QA is must have and the remaining two are?
So the training and QA part is like a recurring thing, which is continuously you want what's happening out there. Business insight is a asymmetrical impact which you have maybe once in 2-3 months or something like that. So the impact of business insights in some ways is way higher, but the continuous KPIs, and I'll show that to you, is primarily coming from the quality audit and personalized training part. In fact, if you think about the QA part, we all know those spam calls which we get, those so many issues of you taking an insurance and then at the last moment insurance company saying, okay, we never had this particular provision here, and the same happening in the lending, so many surcharges and stuff. So RBI and other regulators like IRDI are taking cognizance over there. So because of so many issues of mis-selling happening primarily in insurance and for RBI in lending, RBI set up a K Kanugu committee. And they explicitly mention, and you can see the highlighted portion on the screen, that today you are only auditing samples of the calls and interactions. You could audit 100% of them, right? With the help, use some AI ML tool, because previously it was just not possible to do it in a human way.
So, in any sales call, right, there's two aspects. One is what the agent is saying, and one is how the agent is saying it. So, like tonality, speed, if the agent is getting agitated because the customer is getting agitated, and so on. So, if you're using a speech to text model, would you be able to get those nuances as well, or is that something you're working on?
So that's exactly what we are working on. It's one of our product features. We are kind of putting an NLP on top of it to detect emotions. So like this was a feedback from our customers only, that a lot of times after post 3 p.m. the agents are really lethargic. They're not selling with very energy. So why don't you capture that also, that what are the times that we could shift the agent to something else? So we are working on that, and that will be soon live.
There are two ways of doing that. So one is the speech to text one only, because we are not having only the keywords, we are having the context also. So we can figure out that way. And then second is, assessing the pitch of the voice and the tonality part, which is a separate thing. So there we are having an algorithm. If pitch is going up, so let's say we are having a particular agent whose normal pitch for last 1 month was X, and suddenly it was like X plus 10. So either there was some disturbance in the background, or there was like he was, speaking heavily or something like that. So we are working on that particular part as of now.
Got it. And as part of, like, you showed us 3 modules, is like new joinee training also a part of one of these modules?
I think that's one of the best things which we are trying to do. It's here. So what happens is, let's say we fix all of this, and your employees leaves after 6 months because attrition is so high in this domain. What you gonna do? So what we're trying to do that with the help of the training process, we want to make the agent training ramp up process really fast. What I mean by that is this. Today, if you hire a new agent, he takes like a year or so to reach the optimum level which other agents are at right now. So can we do something so that he's able to sell as good as someone who's selling from last 2 years in next 1 or 2 months? And that comes from the personalized training part which we were telling you. So because we are literally listening to every single word, the AI is listening to every single word which you were saying. So we can tell you. So I think there were a lot of issues in terms of closing for both insurance and loan thing. So how do you close? So if you just say, okay, this is my product and these are the features, why don't you buy it? And you don't create a sense of urgency at the end of the call, it doesn't work. So you're going to create a sense of urgency by offering some discount. Okay, sir, if you purchase it today, the offer is valid, otherwise it won't go. So you do those small things, and those are the things through which our good agents get differentiated from our average agent. So that we also work upon. And I think one more module which we are having is enabling work from home. So India, because of the frugality in cost structure, was kind of the BPO destination in last decade. So you were having all your US calls coming to India. But now in cities like Gurgaon or Bangalore, the cost structure are really high. Because of that, our agent get a salary of 25,000, and they end up paying most of them in rent, commute, and stuff like that. Can we have, I don't know, maybe Jaipurs of the world or Chandigarhs of the world, or even smaller cities like Bareilly or something else? So those agents can actually sit at their home or at a particular place in cities where cost structures are even more frugal, and they'll get an additional income on top of their existing income. They won't have to move to big crowded cities. It'll be like a win-win for both of them, and the cost structures for the organization will also.
How will you enable that?
So right now we are only working on the technology piece. So if you want to have your call centers operate from home or operate from a tier 2, tier 3 city, we give you a technology and we just tell you, okay, it's like someone is listening your conversation every single second. So, we are able to figure out the issues, whether they are putting in enough effort or not, what is their performance and stuff. So right now we are doing the part of the tech enabler in a way, not much of a infrastructural enabler.
Got it.
One quick question here, right? You mentioned that in the future you want people to be able to sit at home and provide high quality customer service from their homes, right? But don't you think that in the future, as we get better and better in terms of AIML, we will be able to have automated calls? In fact, it's happening right now as well, right? We've seen with the examples of Klarna, right? Moving their customer support largely to bots, which are extremely hyper realistic in terms of the way they talk. Don't you think that would be the future? And if that happens, then people at home would not really need to do that, right?
I think that makes a lot of sense, and in fact, that because of that reason also, we have also developed an in-house AI board, which we'll show to you. But very interestingly, Moat, if you look at this, I think it doesn't simply mean all those call center people will go away. It's just the nature of the query changes. So I think in earlier days, we would have used it for checking the bank account balance. Like half of India BPO was just telling you about your credit card balance or something. Today, the complexity level has risen so much, you ask different set of questions from the call center. So I think that's there. And secondly, I think there also, the solution is not a voice talking to you. In a way, the do-it-yourself domain, where you either having a LLM or FAQs on your website or something like that, can actually solve that part even before having an AI voice there. So it goes like this. If you are looking to speak to a human, you have done all the FAQ search, you have done all the search on the website and Google and on the YouTube, if someone else is also facing this problem. Then if you want to speak to a person, you want to speak to a person. You don't want to speak to a bot. So I think that middle segment, though we are also doing it for some of the mundane calls, but that middle segment, though it seems okay, it's going to enlarge like anything, it's actually going to end up squeezing more and more. Because either I'll be able to find out the answer on the website, Google, YouTube, or something else, or I just want to talk to a human. So I think that's how we perceive.
And also in terms of sales, like nobody wants to be sold by a voice bot. And that's where I think the bots are definitely going to solve 50% of the calls, but the people are still going to be there to interact and kind of build.
What happens when you're not able to tell that it's a bot?
Actually, we're also doing that. We're also able to tell that. But just think, if we just apply the first principles over there. So how a bot is functioning, you're having an LLM at the back and then they're doing text to speech, right? Why don't you just type out your query on the website?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, for some industries, it won't work as simply as I'm saying it, but that's what we are thinking. There will be some segment for the AI bots for sure, but actually it'll end up squeezing between the do-it-yourself domain where you'll have a LLM chatbot or something also, and then you actually talking to a person when you're just feeling like, okay, I want to talk to someone.
Guys, just a quick time check.
Yeah.
Do you want to move to the customers and financials and traction section? And
I think we can show you the
Actually, we do
the product demo?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And I saw a sample call report. Can we just see that?
Maybe we can show you a live.
Yeah, they do a very good live call.
Okay, perfect. Let's do that.
Cool. We'll provide you a hybrid kind of system. So you'll be talking to a AI call. We'll set up a call, and then one of you can volunteer and talk to it. And then from that same call only, we'll show you the insights.
Okay.
Even though it's not an AI auditing tool, this is for the human first, but for the sake of ease, we'll show you how the report looks like. Right. So
Who has their phone?
I'll probably call on my own one.
Yeah.
Just give me a second.
It's actually a loan bot call where they it asks आपको loan चाहिए, and then you can just show some interest के I want some loan for X amount or for X.
नमस्कार, मैं लोन विभाग से आज आपकी किस प्रकार सहायता कर सकता हूँ?
मुझे लोन चाहिए था।
बहुत बधाई हो। लोन कितने का चाहिए और आपका क्रेडिट स्कोर क्या है?
सर मुझे गाड़ी का लोन चाहिए। आप गाड़ी का देते हो या होम लोन देते हो?
आपका सवाल समझने के लिए धन्यवाद। हम गाड़ी के लिए भी और घर के लिए भी लोन प्रदान करते हैं। आपकी जरूरतों को समझने के लिए कुछ और जानकारी चाहिए। आपके पास आय की कोई और स्रोत है क्या?
नहीं, सिवाय नौकरी के और कुछ नहीं है इसके पास।
ठीक है, आपकी स्थिति को समझने के लिए धन्यवाद। आपके लिए कितना लोन चाहिए और आपका क्रेडिट स्कोर क्या है?
15 लाख का लोन दे देंगे आप?
25 मांग लो।
25 लाख चाहिए। 15 से 25 एक्सप्लोर करें, आप क्या ही दिला पाओगे?
मुझे खेद है, लेकिन मैं लोन एजेंट नहीं हूँ और मैं आपको लोन नहीं दे सकता। मैं सिर्फ आपकी जानकारी लेने
रिगार्डिंग लिसनिंग या सो ठीक है, तो आप मेरे को नहीं दोगे क्या लोन? मैं 25 लाख का सोच रहे थे, आप नहीं दिलवा सकते? किसी से बात नहीं कर सकते?
मुझे खेद है, लेकिन मैं आपको लोन देने की अनुमति नहीं दे सकता। आपको लोन के लिए बैंक या वित्तीय संस्था से संपर्क करना चाहिए।
It's actually smart what it detects emotion. दो लोगों ने बोला like 15 लाख का नहीं 25 लाख का. It actually flagged it as a spam call.
The biggest concern which we were facing is how do you control it?
Right.
क्योंकि last time I showed कि पाकिस्तान का launch है, वो कहता है मैं पाकिस्तान का दिला देता हूँ, like that, right? So this time we have told कि भाई तू बैंक नहीं है, ठीक है? So just don't like बैंक एजेंट दिलवा देता हूँ।
वो हर लाइन में ये क्यों बोलता है कि धन्यवाद बारी मुझे धन्यवाद?
कॉल सेंटर वाले भी बोलते हैं ना?
नहीं, इतनी बार नहीं बोलते during the conversation.
I think we can also customize that to some extent.
Here you can make out it's not a human. I at least felt like.
But that was not always make out, I think.
In a lot of cases, it's a very smart conversation where the way of talking and what they are saying, etc., is very point to point. I mean, of course, this will evolve over time. But right now, at least I felt like a lot of the repetition, etc., in terms of the conversation wasn't needed.
So I think that makes sense. I think what we did wrong over here is we were trying to train it as a call center agent only. So there you also see some level of repetition. Okay, ma'am, patience के लिए धन्यवाद. मैं आपकी information check की जा रही है. तो those kind of words.
Fair, but यहाँ पर वो they didn't need to put us on hold any time, or they didn't need to inconvenience. It was just a straightforward answer which was already available. So I'm just saying that it will get refined over time, but a great first version.
No, I think there are two use cases. I'm okay talking to a bot for qualification, but then I would know that I'm talking to a bot, and I would say, exactly. Connect me with a real human agent.
So even this bot does that. Like if you two guys would have not spoken, right? If only one person would have spoken and it would have gone through, then ये नहीं देगा आपको लोन. It will just
right now I think it's still flat.
But ये सारी information ले लेगा.
So it's very clear on whose mistake it is.
So actually it was like from our clients meeting, they were like, on EMI reminder calls which was supposed to happen for 30 seconds, people are talking for 5 minutes.
No, I couldn't get the room because of Kitty, because I asked her to
actually even
I wanted to see if multiple people talk, because wives and husbands also have a point of view when you're saying कि नहीं इसको इतना नहीं ऐसे मत बोलो.
That makes a lot of sense. In fact, we initially thought we will do selling with it, but very interestingly, right now we are doing most of its use in actually EMI reminder calls.
Okay, makes sense.
So very interestingly, in India today you set up NASH mandate, and let's say for tier 2, tier 3 India, if you bounce on NASH mandate, even though let's say you have taken a loan on your mobile for 6,000 rupees or something, and your EMI is 400, 500 rupees, but if it get bounced, so you pay 500 rupees penalty to the bank, not even to the NBFC. So that's like a really big pain point for NBFCs today. You ask anyone, they say, okay, I'm facing this difficulty. So there they set up a calling team who reminds the people, आपकी EMI आ रही है, please pay कर दीजिए. So that's where we are getting most of our customers right now.
एक बार ये report देखते हैं.
I think इसका दोबारा से करूँ या फिर इसी से
इसी से करवा. I think we get to know, because I imagine there are a lot of these bots, right?
Yeah. But interestingly, this is kind of something we are building also for the future. But right now, what is more deployed is the auditing tool.
Sure.
Like an auditing tool, the main concern for the NBFCs is that my agents are not selling well, or they're mis-selling, or they're not giving
this
their
is
products
what I
correctly.
get for the auditing.
Yes, correctly. So if you were kind of using our product and you were to open an individual call instead of a dashboard, you would get this, where everything that was spoken on the call, being it civil kitna hai aapka, what is the city, that this is kind of a genuine call from our clients. So like a call summary, and then what interestingly comes is customer conversion chances. Like in an NBFC, you get thousands of leads, but you don't know who to call again, and that's where your CRM is kind of just getting messed up. So
to double tap on it, maybe today the customer conversion chances which you have work on a very rudimentary way. Okay, this is the 10 lakh rupees loan which you are wanting. This is your CIBIL and this is the area. Based on that algorithm, I tell whether it's a hot lead or cold lead. But with help of our tool, what you can actually do is go inside the conversation, right? So for example,
I think you can also spot cross-selling opportunities, right? I mean, today, for example, if I ask a call center agent about a product which they don't know about, or they are not from that department, I think there is a lot of leakage, because a lot of times they say we don't know enough about this, we'll put you through, but it doesn't go through, or you can call on this number, or we will schedule a call back which never comes on your time. So I think all of that you can identify, because when the moment you start playing on the revenue pool of your customer, then your ability to charge.
No, I think
higher.
that's so accurate. In fact, we were doing a pilot with DMI Finance, and there we got to know the moment your loan was about to expire, like you take, they are doing some Samsung pay later kind of thing, and let's say it's a loan of 7,000-8,000 rupees. At the end of the loan, a lot of people were asking, okay, can I get 5,000 rupees more? I need it somewhere else, and XYZ reason. And very interestingly, we were able to spot this insight that a lot of people are asking for it. Now they're actually exploring whether they can give a top-up loan to their existing customers who have a good credit history. So I think that's a very fair point of cross-selling things.
Okay, got it. So I think maybe we can just move on to, you mentioned 4 customers. Yeah. What is the profile of these customers? How are you charging?
Perfect.
What's the scale of these accounts?
Maybe on this one also, just one last thing. We also have like a automation part, which is to say, after every call, it's a good practice to send a WhatsApp message to the customer.
Okay.
But because it's so mundane, let's say if I just did this call, I'll have to, open up my WhatsApp, add your number to it, and then think a message and type it out to you. But with help of AI, it just comes after the call. So it'll be there, whatever conversation we had, it'll be there. And secondly, most of the times we would have faced this issue. Let's say we are having a call with something and, the agent doesn't have the context of the call in the next call. Or you schedule it for a particular time. And this is, I'm talking about the tier 2, tier 3 India telecall sales kind of thing. And there you end up forgetting that. So with the help of this, when you are saying, अगर call में मेरे को 11 बजे कल बात कर लेना, तो आपको automatic calendar reminder set हो जाता है with the pretext of the meeting.
So it's like that CRM gets automatically marked that the agent has to call. So even the business now gets very relieved that my customer doesn't have, like my agent doesn't have to manage the CRM, and everything is automatically being fed and being recorded in a very structured way.
So you integrate the product mandatorily with the CRM?
Yes. Not mandatorily, we integrate with the dialer first, but in case if they want the extra extension of automations, we integrate it.
But the hook to get into these accounts is the audit product.
Right.
Okay. So we just tell them, okay, आपकी इतनी calls हो रही है, 1-2 बंदा बैठ के
That makes sense, because I mean, even if your product does a lot of things, you'll have to figure out what's that hook that actually comes closest to solving the customer pain point immediately, and that's how you at least get into the customer account.
Who is the user of that audit product? The team lead?
Primarily someone, like it's the RICP, there is, in fact, in a way, the chief revenue officer or something. Okay. Because most of the times, though it's like a bit contrarian, because of the profanity issue, the revenue get affected.
It's not the compliance.
Compliance people, but अभी तक RBI का पूरा audit यहाँ पे आया नहीं है, so the financial and compliance team just stays away from it.
Okay.
It's mostly the sales and the revenue folks only who do separate as of now.
Okay.
Maybe if compliance thing comes up like in a legal mandate or something, then I think they'll also start getting involved.
Guys, just one last question, and then let's move to customers and traction and so on. A large part of mimicking human-like experience on calls made by bot, of course, derives from latency. And from what I could notice on the call, there was a little bit of latency. It's not, it felt real, but it also felt like there's some more room for improvement on the latency front. So what are you doing on that front, Vansh? I imagine it's you. And while you answer this question, perhaps also just talk a little bit about the tech stack, because you guys mentioned you're anyway using a lightweight LLM, not as many parameters as the larger one. So I imagine some of those choices also have a role to play in latency and such.
Absolutely. So right now, like in terms of the core brain of the architecture is Llama 3 model. Earlier we were using Llama 2. Now it's Llama 3, 7 billion, smaller model just to kind of getting it running faster. Then we have deployed it on LPUs, language processing units. And like the entire architecture is hosted on DigitalOcean, similar to AWS. And your question, like the latency part, that was the real game here. So our like until like the day it was not care what the agent is saying. Like LLM, you can anyways fine tune it, restrict it. But the thing is, it has to be so much like in feeling like a one single experience. Yeah. So like what we have actually done here is earlier, what used to happen was all the 3 LLMs used to happen and work independently. Like first the text would convert, then it would go to LLM, then it would go to the voice generating engine. But interestingly, we have kind of bridged them in a way that right from the first word that you speak, it directly gets transcribed and sent to the LLM. And then what is the output basis that? Because LLM works it's more like a transformer model. Like it would already get like what is going to be the context here. And that response directly goes into the voice engine. So the entire bridge is more like we think. It's like we hear, we directly process it even before we kind of speak, and then we kind of speak it. So that was kind of the core model which has like kind of helped us reduce the latency here. However, like the voice generating engines, they are kind of like the open source model that we were able to work upon are still more into development side. So that is the main chunk of latency that you are seeing here. So all other three core modules take around 300 milliseconds of latency, but our voice engine is taking 1 second. And that's what we can kind of, if we reduce it to 500 milliseconds, like your entire conversation is just 1 second. And it's gonna feel more human like.
Okay, so that's the answer of a techie, right? What we did in terms of jugaad and stuff was this, what ma'am was getting irritated with. So what we did was, after every, once you get the response, so to make it feel like speak faster, we add those generic things, right? तो मैं आपको धन्यवाद बोल देता हूँ, मैंने आपकी बात समझ ली है, तो that's like very generic thing. So actually the latency was even higher, but I know, I think it's irritated you to some point, and that's fair, but that's a filler.
A lot of AI chatbots also do this, not just voice, but they add these filler fluff pieces.
And in the back they are thinking and...
we're taking some time to understand your query and analyzing our data sets. ऐसे सब लिख के
I'm sure you have experimented with other LLMs also once, right?
Right, we did it, but interestingly, there's one more core thing. Right now, we are relying on the telephony service. And telephony service, or they also have a latency within their architecture.
Levote, Vilios, Ozondels of the world.
And given that these are BFSI clients, where does the data reside? Because I'm assuming that's their data, whatever lead is.
So right now, very frankly, these are smaller NBFCs, so it's not as regulated as a bank or something. So what we are doing over there is, the data is within India only, on their own servers, and Vansh can tell you more, but the compute is still happening outside India. I think we are also trying to,
so
and that's
move that also into the India only. Now what we are working is to pack this into an enterprise product. So in case if we go to you, we do not say that, hey, this is a subscription connected to the SELM. We say we deploy it on your self-hosting, on your cloud, and then you can use it and we'll build as per the minutes that.
But I think we are having great tailwinds over there. Like Nandan Nilekani is also picking up of having more compute and GPUs in India with People Plus AI and other initiatives. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is we don't have so many GPUs and compute right now in India, which is like self-hosted in India. And for bigger clients and let's say for the bigger banks, we'll of course need that. So right now the compute GPU part is happening outside India, but the storage of data is in India only. And that's the RBI compliance also right now. You got to keep your data in India, somewhat gray on the processing part. So that's how we're thinking.
Perhaps we move to customers.
Yes. Yeah. So these are some of the customers we've been working on, doing a lot of work with Drivio, AMU Finance, Seekers also. Now there are a few others like doing with DMI and Debreifing. With Mastercamp also, we have been doing a small, though it's a edtech kind of company, but we have been working with them also. Our revenue right now is like 1 lakh rupees a month, which we are having. We are also talking to some other bigger companies like Zerodhas of the world, Spinnies of the world. So yeah, I mean that's.
Yes, you have 4 paid customers today.
Yeah, so 4 paying customers today.
All of them are NBFCs.
Like in more master camps in the edtech space, others are more or less lending. Like Drivio is not an NBFC. There are startups selling loans.
For each of the customers, can you cover 2 things? One is the exact use case. For example, you said EMI reminder is one use case. The exact use case, and how much are each of them paid, and how long did it take for you to convert?
Okay, so I can begin with the AMU. So with AMU, we begin with tele-caller evaluation code. So it's the code, once you do the loan, what's it called technically?
Yeah, it's TVR verification.
TVR verification.
So it's like right before you disburse the loan, you call the customer and ask, hey, these are the things XYZ filled in your form. Do you confirm this?
Okay.
Right? And that's where the customer had the concern that a lot of times the agent won't even confirm all the parameters. They'll just ask top 3-4 things, address, name of the father.
There's small things कि आप अपने खुद के घर में रहते हो, किराए के घर में रहते हो, and it's a big sort of a change because if you are living in a rented house, you are credit. So if let's say agent के through आपका loan हो रहा है, dealers के through हो रहा है, on papers they have put they are staying in their own house, and if you look at it for the underwriting process, it makes a lot of difference whether you are living in your own house or in a rented house. So just to confirm that and check if there is some anomaly.
So now in this account, how long did it take you to crack it? Who did it? Was it one of the 2 of you? And what has been the account's usage and billing since you went live with them?
Cool. So I think we begin with working with them somewhere in March and April.
This
it
year?
took this year only.
Okay.
So we are just a 6 months old company in a way. Even before incorporation, we were working with them. So it took us around 2 to 3 months to convert them, and we were also building our tool at the back end, to be honest. So that's the conversion part. The KPI.
How long did it take to go live?
So for them, we did it in like 20-25 days. Like we were able to do that.
Yeah, so I mean, we were
from
working on the tool.
The first point of touch took around.
To live, it was 2020.
So I think the approach we were following was like, to build fast, even if it's not very, like
the best product,
bug free or the best product. So our approach was okay. Let's just.
So I'm just getting a sense of how much time does it take to integrate or to do any initial pilots, demos.
Very honestly, I think it won't give you a proxy for that because all these customers are like very small, 30-40 people, NBFC kind of stuff.
Okay.
SME also, you can call it in some ways. And the real money is made on the bigger clients, maybe like DMI Finance we are trying to work with, and couple of other big banks and NBFC like HDFC, AMC we are talking to.
Okay.
So I think that proxy of converting a customer of a 30-40 and then comparing it with someone with 3,000, 4,000 employees or even more than that, I think that that won't be right in a way.
Sure, no, that's not what we are trying to do. I'm just trying to understand, even for a small customer, how soon can you go live once they contract with you? What are the steps needed?
Yeah, so I think there we begin with that. What we did, they were doing a lot of calls in eastern Uttar Pradesh area, Bareilly's of the world, Ayodhya's of the world, and even some areas of Bihar and Odisha. So we took some time to customize the ASR part, not the LLM one, for the generic voices of Odisha and Bihar, and maybe we can also show you a recording from there which we were able to analyze. So that much of effort was primarily required in the AMU case for the accents of eastern Uttar Pradesh and stuff. So yeah, LLM was more or less was doing a basic job in that. It was just, you have a data set of text to speech and you're gonna sort it as per other requirements. So there was no customer conversion chances or something. It was a tele-verification call. So that was the story with the AMU. There we were charging on per minute basis. So we were doing 70 paise per minute because it was not a lot of quantity like sales which was going in. It was more or less a very few calls which is going to only those people who were getting loan or like 20-30% more than them who got rejected later. So that was with the.
How much do they pay in aggregate?
So right now they would be paying us 30-40,000 per month.
Okay, understood.
Yeah. So the second one we are working with is Sadravya. So Sadravya primarily do DSA kind of selling for loans and insurance. And we found that their process was really broken in terms of having us, by the way, very interestingly, you'll get to know even bigger NBFCs who are having like a AUM of 100 crore or something, they sometimes don't even have their CRM integrated at the first place. So that was the kind of situation which was also happening with the Sadravya in a way. So we were able to fix those things, and the automation layer which we were talking to you about, like after every call you get the notes into the CRM. So that we were able to crack for the Sadravya. So their main use case was, okay, whatever was happening, giving them a quality audit process, if something mis-selling was done in insurance or not, and then automating the notes to their CRM. So those two were the
most
key KPIs.
The most interesting use case was that so they are kind of more or less an aggregator of multiple insurance providers. So after the call, the agent had to fill an entire basic form to get the quotation and then send it to the team. So in that case, like apart from the quality audit side, that particular one piece of filling up all those details, like 70% of that we were able to do it, and then the agent had to put a very less time to actually send it across.
Okay.
And we were doing pilot with DMI, so we were thinking, okay, now it's TK, we have done a POC with smaller ones, but we could have work with the bigger clients in future. So DMI I think is a $3-4 billion NBFC, and we started with the customer support segment. That was the area they wanted us to work on. And on asymmetrical insight part, there we were doing primarily the quality audit part, and they were facing two problems. First one was disposition mismatching. So they were skeptical that their agent are marking something else into the CRM while something else was happening on the call. So maybe the customer pick up the call and said, okay, I'm not interested. But just to meet the KPIs for the agent, they'll mark the call was never picked. Something like that. I mean, just giving an example over here. Then secondly, we were able to find a asymmetrical insight over there, which was this. You'll be surprised to know 30% inbound calls in their NBFC or the customer support center were actually loan unka disburse ho gaya, like you have disbursed the loan, money haven't hit the account. It generally take 24 or 48 hours, and 30% query was coming into the customer service ki mere paise abhi tak nahi hai. So the solution to this was not a human speaking to them. It was just, you can just send them an email, WhatsApp, or like some message ab initio, like even before that case arise. Okay, we've sanctioned the loan, boss. It's gonna take 24 or 40. It's a very simple solution, right? And they were spending 30% of their bandwidth onto that. Though whatever I'm telling right now is like covered under the NDA, so maybe we could edit that out and stuff. But yeah, on like one-to-one basis.
Time there, so maybe you can quickly cover these two customers and if you.
Yeah, and just the general margin profile of the company. How much are you burning today? And let's say the gross margin is X today. What do you expect it to be 12 months out as you are scaling up and you're being able to apportion the cost over a larger number of accounts?
Yeah. So you wanna speak me for the review and master camps?
Let's just move to the margins.
Fair enough. So right now we are having gross margins of around 60%.
Okay.
I know SaaS are famous for getting 90-95% margins, but compute, to be very honest, is a little expensive right now. Though one team figured out a way to do it on the shared computing basis, but there we realized, for the compliance perspective, it won't really go well. So the margins we are having right now, after eliminating the compute and the development cost, which is gross margin, is around 60%. Then the net margins, are around 40-45%. Though these numbers are more theoretical in a way, I would say, because the revenue which we are having, like 1 lakh rupees or something, can't really give us a proper sense of the margins in the longer run.
Yeah. But what are your fixed costs like on a monthly basis?
Right now, so before, after a recent fundraise, we have kind of increased our team size. However, we are not scaled on the revenue yet because
how many people are there in the team?
So right now we are 4 to 5 people. Total,
including both founders?
Yes.
Okay.
Other are interns working as.
So 5 full-time people.
Even they are kind of more or less part-time. 1 or 2 people. We are kind of turning them. Earlier they were doing internships with us from our college friends only.
Sure.
Okay. That's great, but.
No, actually, a very interesting thing which we found is this. Even the senior engineers, let's say someone is Google, a friend was working at Google, and then they were working with us, and they were, not very agile when it comes to LLMs and stuff. Interns were picking it way faster than them because they had to do unlearning and stuff. So right now it was more of us bunch.
So then I'm guessing fixed cost isn't much today.
No, it's not.
You're working out of where? Do you have an office?
So we don't have
a home and office. It's just one space for us.
Yeah.
And how much did you end up raising? You said after you raised
Yeah, so we have raised 200K right now from campus.
Okay. And how long will this money last you? This is your plans today.
So if I go what Sanjeev sir teaches is, you should treat every fundraise as your last fundraise. Yeah. So, but yeah, on a more of a pragmatic note, I think it should be 18 months where we'll achieve near profitability levels. So,
what kind of scale do you think you're going to be with revenue at that time?
So we were anticipating a revenue ARR of $1 million in 18
months. Okay.
So actually we are like pre-PMF in some ways right now. So that's why working more on the product and working with customers to figure out the precise thing which we can focus more upon. And the revenue real boost is going to come after 6 to 8 months when we'll be focusing on the scaling thing only.
Okay.
So our core focus is to pack the product for enterprises, so that it's because once we deploy it on their servers, we do not have a lot of access to it. In case if something is falling on that side, there's going to be an entire process to fix it. So it's first we test the product enough that it is resilient and robust, and then we just keep scaling it across the industry.
What do you think are the moats in this business?
So I would say there are multiple. So first one being your LLM for a particular industry get trained better and better. So we are focusing on this particular segment of lending. Let's say we end up focusing more on the sales or the customer support part. So we'll have a best kind of LLM for that particular industry. So I think that's the
second thing, which is if you see the automations part, once we enter your organization, though we start off with the audits, but once we get to the automation and we integrate with your CRM, and then we kind of keep getting over your systems. Why do you actually make an agent buy a CRM? Is that he could get the calls and then he could fill the data after that. But let's say if our tool is doing it, right, and the agent only has to focus on selling, we changed his behavior, how the way he used to operate. And at that point, for an enterprise who's with 200, 300 agents, it's going to be very hard for someone else to kind of have all those entirely structured automations to be rebuilt and reintegrated again.
And a very interesting perspective, the approach we are working for the modes is this. The generic models, be it ASR, speech to text or whatever, who are trying to compete in an agnostic kind of industry or a very wide industry will for sure get rolled over by GPT-5s of the world. So what we are trying to do is pick up a very small niche, which is very deep as well in terms of revenue pool, and become super customized and super specialized for that particular thing. So even though, as we just told you, we are working with the sales and the customer support part, we're also exploring the concept of psychometrics with one of our client. So going a little deep on that, if on the sales and credit assessments.
So it's like the particular LLM has to be so smart to be able to solve multiple use cases for the industry and especially for the BFSI or NBFC space that we are kind of keen into.
Okay, how much are you raising?
So actually we're not looking to raise on a frank note, so we just raised, and I think it's gonna sustain us for a while.
Got it.
So,
Do you guys have any questions for us? You don't have to. You don't have to.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, great.
I think you guys should be really proud of where you've gotten to and so frugally. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even on the investment part, we've just raised the money and haven't used any of it yet.
Yeah, it's like just 1% of maybe.
Good, that's a good situation.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Cool, I think.
All right. Good. Thank you guys.
Awesome, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks, good work.
Shubham and Vansh have built something interesting. It was an interesting 1 hour. We can start debriefing. Do you want to talk about the market first, guys, or everyone wants to share some overall reflections if you...
Sure, so maybe I'll just go first. I thought the founders for their age actually exhibited a lot of maturity and insight in terms of why they were building, what they were building.
Yeah.
And I also think they're very customer first in how they are approaching the problem and the solution, which is very important at such an early stage. So speaking with their customers, figuring out what are the exact agent problems, etc., and going deep. At some point, they will, of course, have to narrow down the solution in terms of what they're trying to build, because you can't have a GTM that is that broad. You can't have a tech build out which is so broad and across use cases.
Yeah.
But I was pleasantly surprised by how much they had already done in terms of both product building and customer and revenue traction, while being literally a 2 or 3 member team.
This space in general seems very crowded. We have enough companies.
We have met at least 25 companies in an allied space in the last month or two.
Yes. And some of those have also cracked marquee large customers in India and US. So I'm really not sure about their competitive positioning and how do they really emerge as a winner.
See, with how easy it's become to access LLMs, especially lightweight LLMs, and actually orchestrate them in an environment to be able to roll out a product like this, I just think that the bar for product development on deploying voice for different use cases, that bar has come down, and which is exactly what we are seeing in terms of, we are likely meeting 3 companies in a similar space on a weekly basis. But to what Kitty said, I think what they have done well is they have managed to identify a relatively narrow, a relatively niche problem. I think Vansh also said something interesting, the fact that they get integrated in the workflow of a client. I think that's the magic. Once you get integrated in the workflows, unless a meaningfully superior product or offering comes along, you will basically be there for the foreseeable future.
Conversational AI in general is an extremely crowded space, right? But if you talk about it like generally, looking at their specific solution, the only thing that I get a little scared of, is that because there are a bunch of players, not just in India but outside as well, that have already closed $100 odd million in revenue, and in India also you have some players like Yellow.ai which have created a very strong base. They would obviously definitely have a tech advantage over these guys. That says this is a very big space. Like there's always room to sell to someone.
But I feel like tech will not be the moat in the mid to long term anyway, and it's all going to be about distribution. So even if human agents are going to reduce, the use cases for which human agents continue to be used, obviously the more complex use cases, customized use cases will continue to be there. So I would have preferred if the founding team had someone who has done enterprise GTM before, specifically for the segment that they are targeting, and could set that sales motion while they are in steroids, because I do think it's going to be a capturing the customer kind
100%.
of thing, because once you get in, you don't get out, and you keep finding different use cases to keep integrating deeper with your customer.
And to become really large, eventually, if you look at 80-90% of the volumes will reside with very large players. Unless you crack them,
be
a small player in the market. The good thing for them is that you can still be profitable.
Yeah.
You will ideally not burn a lot of money if you're running this business sensibly, so you continue to exist.
Yeah.
You might not have an opportunity to become really large over the next 3 years.
Yeah.
But as an investor, I think it's very difficult to take a call then, basis what they have today.
Yeah.
Whether they will be the ones who can be one of those larger players.
Breakout
On the
companies.
tech itself, the fact that they don't offer real-time analysis right now, I think is slightly behind a few other competitors that we have seen. Most people think that real-time analytics is sort of table stakes now. This is the norm.
Besides the point, but good to see young founders taking a crack at it.
It's among the founders we have now met.
This is the fifth, sixth
time.
time.
As well. I think one thing we really like is I think the first time Moat and I had met him was perhaps 1.5 years ago.
He was building something else then.
Yeah, he had just graduated from undergrad and he was trying to build something else. And we
at that point, it was a truck logistics, if you remember, truck logistics play. Then he got into the e-natch play, which was pure fintech, and now he's in AI.
All right, I guess we'll track the team, and whenever they're ready to raise funds, we'll pick the conversation up again with them. Yeah? All right, good. Shubham, Vansh, thank you for spending this time with us today. Thank you for taking us through your story, your product. We know that, at the fund, some of us have been interacting with you over the years, and we have seen your journey as a founder. And, this is not just lip service, but we are mighty impressed by, the journey that you guys have taken. We quite like the product that you've built out. In terms of a very pithy answer, there is none to give, given that you guys are not really raising money right now. But the pithy answer, if one had to give, was, whenever you guys decide to raise more capital, you should definitely come down and spend some more time with us. This is a space that we have been monitoring actively for a while. We have met a bunch of companies in this space. We do believe that you have narrowed down on a use case that could be pretty meaningful. We like the way you're thinking about the business in terms of integrating with the workflows of clients, in terms of solving for very, very specific, narrow, India-specific use cases and so on. And therefore, we'd love to meet you again. In terms of the core business, GTM, etc., I'm sure we have some feedback, but I'll hand it over to a few other people in case they want to share.
One thing that I would say is happening is that the space is becoming very competitive because this is, I would say, in terms of the problem identification, it has been a problem for a long time, and now the advent of AI has made a lot of the solutions possible, which earlier were really challenging to build in terms of the tech or the product. So ultimately, tech or product might not be the moat here. And distribution might be the moat, because once you get integrated with the customer and you're doing a good job, and like you said, you're integrating with their CRMs and you're basically getting into their workflows, it's a very sticky product. So I would say that in the initial stages itself, if you can find someone who is an experienced sales leader as a part of the founding or the co-founding team, it could be really beneficial.
So Shubham, we've met a few times, and I've always been it's been extremely impressive meeting someone like you. I think that going ahead, there are a lot of things that we can definitely provide help in, right? So for instance, a lot of what you do, the back-end infra, especially for certain vernacular languages that might be required, we are investors in a company which might be able to help you with that. Happy to connect you with them. Whatever connects we can make with other people in the BFSI space that we are connected with and can use a solution like this, happy to make those as well. And would love to connect again 6 months down the line, hopefully meet Seeds.AI again.
No, for sure. So I was just curious to understand, we are reminded on weekly basis, like, don't build SaaS for India. India में SaaS नहीं चलता है, customer पैसे नहीं देते हैं, परेशान ज़्यादा करते हैं. So what's your outlook on that? Do I believe, 5-10 years down the line, things will make sense, market will expand even more. But from, right away, from the GTM perspective, you might be seeing a lot of Indian SaaS companies who are focusing abroad, primarily US market, global. But, as a founders, we don't have any first-hand problem for selling experience in US. But still, a lot of people are saying, US is the go-to place for selling SaaS. So what's your outlook on that? Because it's a very genuine problem also. We just can't straight away disregard it, okay, what I'm focusing here and that. And then what I feel is more problematic is this. you achieve a significant product market fit or level of traction here in India, and then the market suddenly becomes small for you, and then you think about the US, and doing that while focusing on both the markets, you would end up not doing well, right? So because we are a little bit early in our journey and can take a step back if required. So what do you think about the SaaS in general? Market should we focus on GTM exclusively for US or global market, because a lot of mentors and industry students tell you that, or is it also be a wise decision to keep focusing on India first?
See, as a founder and as investors also, we're all building for maybe 10, 15 years out. So I personally, and I don't think we also agree that SaaS, India is not the right market for SaaS. We have enough companies which are doing very well in software. It might not be as large a market as US today, but again, 10, 15 years out, it will be very large, right?
For sure.
Secondly, see, your strength so far has been that you have been able to organically identify problems, the problems that are unsolved, and you have been able to build the right product, right? Don't spoil that for something which is unknown for you.
Makes sense.
You should leverage on your strength, right? So keep doubling down on what is working. 2 years out, you didn't know that you will be solving this problem, right? So you don't know 2 years out what additional opportunities you identify within your own customers, within the product that you are building today, right? So just take it step by step. There's a lot of advice to what you should be doing or not doing. I would not advise you to again spoil what you have today for taking a shot at US, etc., right? Take it one step at a time. With this money that you have in bank today, you can perhaps get to 20, 30, 40 customers and then figure out what you want to do.
That makes sense.
Just we've also seen that the kind of SaaS that typically works better is SaaS that's solving for more revenue than SaaS that's solving for less cost. The former has ended up working better, and you guys are already on the right side of that line.
You need to first understand the market, and you need to understand the user, the problem, like Rishabh said. So what is your competitive advantage in building for a market or building a specific product for that customer is the biggest question when you are starting up, right? And you need time to perfect your product, to keep talking to the customer. So you're in India, your customers in India, you can go sit in their offices 5 times a week as needed. And so over the next 1 or 2 years, that becomes a huge advantage. And nowadays, you don't need to actually have salespeople in the US to actually start selling in the US. Let's say your product reaches a maturity and you find a market gap in the US as well, then you can always start with inside sales. You can start with some kind of small performance marketing in terms of validating if there is a fit. But getting to the US is very expensive in terms of execution, right? And so you have to be in a place where your product has been perfected to a certain extent, the use case is validated, you already have a stable business in India, and there are many Indian SaaS companies that have IPO'd. So there is a rate gain now. In our portfolio, we have ShipC, we have Make, we have ShipRocket, we have No Paper Forms, Merito. All of these have India as their primary markets, and they are all now pretty scaled up.
No, I think that does make sense. In fact, the organic problem discovery part, which was also an integral part of our journey.
Yes.
Like we were able to discover the problem organically. We were working with NBFC, they just told us.
Yes.
So I think that makes a lot of sense. Outside market, we just won't really have any that kind of edge.
Awesome then.
Cool. Okay, great.
Cool, yeah, great. Thanks for spending time with us, guys.
See you guys again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. Thank you.